Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you the Geonode edition for the random flow add-on, which will be in the next update. So we're going to test it out today. And I did a little change for the extra offset section of the Geonode setup, and it better emulates what the random cells can do. So it's basically uh, Geonodes right now is basically like random panels and random cells combined. Okay, so let's just try it out with a simple building. So with the Geonode functionality, you have this is better with really basic base mesh or low-poly base mesh because the patterns themselves cannot produce faces that are or face islands that are bigger than the actual faces in the mesh. So for example, this face here, this is only what the face island, the Geonode randomizer can actually produce in terms of size. Versus when you use like random panels, for example, it can produce panel islands that are bigger than the biggest face in the mesh. So for example, this one. But with the Geonode, it cannot. So you have to really play with really big faces, really primitive structures. So you have to get all the forms that you like while maintaining a really basic topology or resolution for your brush mesh. And it works best for this. So initialize, and let's go edit. By the way, you can edit using this, or you can just edit in the, since this is Geonode, you can just edit it in the um, in the call it modifier stack itself. So we have the solvers right here. You can switch between RM or RS. So if you use RS, then you have to modify the parameters of the RS solver right here. And if you select RM, you have to modify the RM solver parameters. So let's just use the RS solver for now. And this is, it's okay, RS. And we're going to go to offset and scale the face or faces, something like that. And as you can see, the face or the faces or the face islands cannot actually go or grow larger than the actual biggest face in the image. As you can see here. Oh, there's one, but it's pretty rare to actually see that. So yeah, we have the details here. You can control the amount of detail based on the subdivision you're using. We have the main sub D and the inner sub D, and this is, they can both be multiplied or repeated using the multiplier parameter here. Okay, now we have that. We want to solve our offset. Okay, offset, and kind of play around with the offset, min and max values. You have the primary seed value here. Oops, not that. For the depth and the offset, the scale and the offset, you have the primary seed value here. Individual extra offset. We turn on extra offset, and it will offset faces um, from the top of the original offset. Okay. Now we can actually increase the subdivision. And the faces percentage now actually operates per individual face and not just the phase islands that they are being offsetted from or extruded from. Okay, so min max values, and we have that, and we can make them smaller using the subdivision, and then reduce the number of extrusions by manipulating the percentage value here. So to see the geonode in edit mode, you just have to turn this uh, on. So by default, it's off because of uh, the way that random flow works. You have to select the faces for the um, randomization. Okay, so now that you have kind of like the basic settings for the pattern here, so this is subdivision a bit more, and 0.05 or 0.08 or 1%, oops, 0.1 or 0.35. Go for 0.15. There we go. Play around with the solver parameters. Okay. Also open up open up relaxed areas using the faces parameter and the offset, the original offset. So this gets rid of the panel islands, some of the panel islands based on percentage, and you can create like relaxed areas using this. So let's go about 90%. For the primary randomization of the distribution of the entire face islands, all panel detail, you go to the to the solver that you are using, and you just play around with the seed values. And we also have the random shading, and in the offset extras, you can toggle on shade smooth and increase the percentage of the amount of faces that is going to be smooth shaded. So this just offers kind of a different look when it comes to render. There is a contrast between sharp and smooth faces that is going to be actually portrayed in the render, and you can also bake this information. So you're not stuck with really sharp faces, and you can also like add a bevel modifier to this, of course, just to make it softer, to make those sharp edges softer. But this, of course, is affected by the overall topology of the mesh, so be careful with that. I will be modifying the geonode a bit more. This doesn't need to be affected by the subdivision of the extra offset. Right now it is, but it doesn't have to be. So the actual mesh that is going to be applied will be much lower, and in terms of resolution. Okay. So what subdivision are we on? Okay, number 3. And then you can just play around with the mesh once you finished with the settings. So as you can see, topology affects the way that the details are being distributed. So, and also this means that how close or far away the edges are to each other affects the randomization, and also more faces in a particular area means more subdivided faces and will create more detail, as you can see here. So you can use this in effect to actually control the detail that is being produced by the randomizer by adding more details or subtracting, uh, adding edges or removing them, not adding in more details or sorry about that. Also, this cannot work with ingons. As you can see here, kind of skewed a little bit. So keep it quads. Okay, so this is our first building. We can play around with the extra offset using subdivision 0 or 1. So if you have overpaint skill, you can paint this some of this stuff as air conditioning. Let's choose 2 subdivision, and we'll probably this settings, the subdi and seed are too close to each other, so I'll probably what's the best? Just watch out for these. You might accidentally bump the seed subdi value instead of the seed, so just watch out for that. They're too close to each other. Maybe I'll just reposition sub D above the faces parameter, so you don't actually accidentally like go to the parameters, and when you think that you're actually modifying the seed value, you're actually modifying the sub D. So based on the subdivision parameters or amount of the solvers that you are using, it can of course freeze Blender when it becomes too high. So yeah. So I think I'm going to reposition it on top of the faces parameter when it comes on the update. So let's kind of shade this a bit. Shading, shading, shade, up in materials and ready to flow. Assign material and our flow panel soft UV. The suffix underscore UV means that it's going to use UV mapping. So unwrap, and since this is really like angular really angular object, so let's just use cube projection and render. Let's change the HDRI. Okay. And let's go to the shader, and we can actually use random vertex color with this as well. And let's go to solver extras, but you need to actually create the color property right here in the data properties in the properties panel. And in color attributes, create one and just press add. That's the default. And we have the color here as well. In attributes selected, okay, color. And we have to connect that. So attributes, color, connect that to the color here. And then we're going to use vertex color. Toggle on use vertex color, and you can change the color here. And you can adjust the distribution between these two color steps. So this just provides like a basic randomized colors for the panel islands or face groups, and then you can, on top of that, you can create uh, or add in your grunge textures or your image textures. So this is basically just a way to just break up the monotony of the colors that are in the base mesh. Okay, there we go. I think that's still too dark, so let's just, okay. So that's kind of like with this, you can render it far away like that, and it could this could already be like a way to a really quick way to generate like building background assets, and then you create another. Let's just let's shift this back to object, and then so if you don't want to, when actually, so for example, if you want to add create an extrusion like this, and if you don't want it affecting this part of the building here, you can just separate the geometry. I think it's V. No, you have to select the edge and press V. Separate that, and then you create like a quad structure here, and then you can extrude that. Okay, so play around with the solver. Let's view it rendered and play around with the solver. Also, let's kind of create a more dramatic lighting for the mesh using the HDRI. There we go. And reduce the reflection. There we go. Then we can play around with the in value. So another option that I'm going to add before the update is the ability to switch between randomizing duplicates. So right now, if you duplicate the objects, it's going to have the same pattern with the same using the same seed values. So in the next update, you can choose between having a uh, randomizing it per object or not randomizing it per object, or having it like the seed value being uniform in all duplicate objects versus tiling it for individual unique patterns for each object. So for example, like this one. So they're different. They have different patterns, but is a duplicate of each other. Okay. So this the to-do list for now for this is actually to create like the initialize should have this at the start this way, and I can create presets for this. So that's the to do right now. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm probably going to just create like a single preset, and more presets will just come later. And here we are. We also we can treat this like a some sort of power supply things or buildings. So let's create like a ground for them. Cursor selected, mesh plane. Where did the plane go? So if you like the Blender tutorials, you can, of course, comment, use the comment section to agree if you'd like me to share my stuff. Okay, I'm going to use or seek out some textures for the ground. You can see the windows that I'm opening, so I'm going to use the shield floor that I always use. There we go. So desert like environments always reminds me of Star Wars more than snow. I think when it comes to Star Wars, I'm more reminded of it by desert environments. And we can switch on the lights here. Emission by increasing emission 20 something. And right now they are too much. Let's go to this and switch this to object and switch this to something like 50 and switch to factor of 4. Reduce the saturation of the lights. Also make it bigger, something like 20. There we go. And reduce its number more. There you go. That's enough. Now I can create like random pipes going to each of the, or not random, draw faces and switch to strip 4. Roll D, increase the size. Just select this edge, and then we can turn them into pipes using creative flow. Edges to curve, clear source object, and then actually bend this bevel. Bevel segments is 2. Okay, 2 is enough. And we can control its width using, using the depth. And then use like fly mesh, and then probably just use the Airflow metal. There you go. Now we can add in some of the you can add in like your other assets for this. Like if you have user library. So I'm going to use my canisters from the store. And if you have other things, you can use this here as well. So just to give like flavor to your scene. Oh, these are the colored ones. So, so look here. So this is one of the techniques that I'm going to show you. So the tutorials that I'm going to make are like little like little techniques that you can use to make your day easier. So like this, for example, if you grab if you grab something from the asset browser like this, so this sticks to any surfaces like that. So for example, it's on the ground, and I have this object's origin point set at its foot. So when you scale it, it's going to scale at the foot. So it's not going to like offset from the ground, away from the ground. So, but if you're going to move it based on the viewport angle, you're going to move it away from the ground. See, if you're going to move it on the spot here using this viewport angle that we have right now, so it kind of offsets from the ground. So the way to do it is you move it and then you press Shift Z. So that locks the Z axis, and you can only move it in the X and Y axis. So you can place it there, and then boom, it's oops. That's because is it? Yeah, it's on the ground. It's just that the our building is clipped. Okay, G to move, Shift Z, and then move it here, and then there we go. It's on the ground still. And when you duplicate it and you move it again, Shift Z to lock it in place. And there we go. It's something like that. So let's add another one for variation. For, for my cylinders, antennas, I think this one is discolored. This. So when you move it, Shift Z, again, Shift Z, there you go. So you don't have to go like this. You can view it much better doing the like this. So then you have your tiny little scene, and you have other things like you can add in other things um, just to build up your scene. So kind of like that. So the point here being that our buildings here actually look functional, and when the viewer sees that, they'll say they based on what movies they have seen from the past or sci-fi movies they've seen from the past, their brain will automatically search out to like find the nearest object that will explain to them what that shape is, and of course um, based on the title and the description of your scene that you have, they will like probably think of it as kind of like generators based on the settings or something like that, and they won't immediately think of it as a gribble. Yeah, so that is for the next update, and What's great about this is you can combine it with uh, random panels. So random panels, we have to merge this to actually work for the. You know that that is in the object. So divide that onto you split this. Oops, forgot to use the merge auxiliary merge panel from this. So we have just increased the resolution of the object, so we need to actually bring it down for the geonode. So you can combine it with the with the original randomizers using the Python script to create like different effects. So let's uh, render this, and there we go. Let's go to offset, oops, or extra offset, I mean, and let it min max, create more extrusions, and something like 0.85. There we go. So another cool thing about this Geonode setup is that you can control which faces it's going to affect. So for example, if you have only selected this face, then it will only affect that face, but it will create like another face, a copy of that face as an object. So this one here, there we go, the R panel. But if you have selected all the faces in the mesh, then it will not create a duplicate and will actually create or add the geonode modifier on the original mesh, like that. But if you have like face selection that is not the whole mesh, then it will create a duplicate of those selected faces as another object in the scene and then add the geonode modifier of that, the randomizer geonode modifier, and then the duplicated object is uh, parented to the original source mode. There you go. So you can just pick the object, the duplicate object, and if you want to remove it, just delete it. Or if you want to change its randomizer result, you can just go in and pick the parameters. So it's really intuitive using that. Okay, so I think we could add in more. I think in the future, I'd like to create a bit more, a bit of a larger scene, probably kind of like a simple spaceport than the spaceship. So something like that when we have more time. Cursor to world origin. Okay, so that's it for this video, and that will be for the next update of the flow add-on, which is the Geonode. The Geonode edition is now going to be merged with this add-on. Okay. If you have any questions, use the comment section below or the links in the description. subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Also, support me in Patreon to get some free stuff. Links are in the description as well.